What's up, guys? It's your boy Goblins, and today we're talking about that new Dark Souls 3 DLC, Ashes of Ariandel. So this shit looks awesome. There's so many cool things about this trailer that I just cannot get over, and I'm so excited to see what it has in store. Now, before we get into anything here, it's to mention that the DLC will be coming out October 25th, and it's very unfortunate, but hey, at least we're getting DLC, and it better be like top-notch DLC, you know? Like, it better be the coolest shit you ever did see. And I'm gonna say it now because I know I'll forget to say it by the end of the video, so October 25th. There's a couple things I want to go over in this trailer though as we watch it, so you guys are better informed about what the DLC might actually be. So I'm actually going to play this trailer a couple times, one to kind of just go over it, and then one to just fill in the gap of footage while we talk about the DLC, if that's cool. So let's get started. So the first thing you guys can see when you walk into it is that there's like this snowy kind of area that you're walking through, kind of creepy looking, and then you don't have much snow in Dark Souls 3. I mean, there's some snow, but you don't have like that much snow, you know? So it's kind of like a new setting. You've got some like weird creature that's like whipping himself in the back. You got this dude that's praying at the, what looks to be Chapel of the Deep, which is really cool as well, which is kind of interesting. So I've already been trying to think up who this dude is, and I can't really think up anything, but he's got this massive gray beard that we'll see on later. But I did just notice that he's praying at the Chapel of Cleansing within like the deep area or wherever. So that's something to take note of as well right there, actually. Now, okay, so you see this girl right here, this girl has gray hair, and she's like touching this painting, and we don't know who she is, but someone via the Reddit had looked through the file names of a bunch of leaked artwork and everything for Ashes of Ariandel and saw this exact image of this lady almost touching this painting, or in front of this painting, known as NPC_painter. And as we see in the trailer, she's like touching this wall or thing in front of her, or like trying to touch. And she has gray hair, so who else do we know that has gray hair? I'm gonna say Rosaria. So the reason I mentioned this in this trailer is because the DLC is called Ashes of Arian. Arian is a girl name in Albanian meaning golden life, as Bart172 has pointed out. And Pimpin' Serial also mentioned that Ariandel and L is a common naming mechanism in the Bible for angels. So I think in this DLC we'll be hearing a lot about the Angelic Faith of Lothric and discussing that further in Ashes of Ariandel, which could be like the falling of Lothric or like the falling of the faith and so on and so forth, which is very interesting. But back on the topic of the gray hair lady, okay, it is speculated that this DLC will be happening in an alternate universe because if we continue to watch, we'll see that we fight 4 bosses plus 1 new boss that destroys us or tries to destroy us with the Lord Vessel as well. So this is either the past that we're going back into to explore or a completely alternate universe. And it's speculated that NPC_painter, as shown in this image, is a young Rosaria, who just so happens to be painting the painted world of Ariamis. Now this is relevant to Guinevere because it's assumed that Rosaria is one of Guinevere's children, as is to be assumed that the whole Lothric family is also of Guinevere's children as well. Now it's always been assumed that Guinevere fled on Orlando with Flynn from Dark Souls 1 according to the lore, but we are talking separate timelines and different types of timelines, and Dark Souls as a universe is always convoluted and blah 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 blah, which is why I think my theory might be kind of relevant in this regard. Now it's also said within the lore that Rosaria may have been trying to escape Orlando and all that, and found Sanctum within the Church of the Deep or wherever, which is why she's there, and she's guarded by mangrubs who shoot angelic stuff at you. Now maybe this mysterious red hooded character is the character that maybe saved her. Now that once again is a huge long shot, but just maybe, just maybe. Now with a lot of these theories too, I'm just gonna assume that you guys watch VatiVidya if you guys watch me. If you want to know any bit of lore that I might be discussing, go over to VatiVidya's videos and watch them. He makes fantastic lore videos so that I don't have to. Although if that's something you guys wanted, I could totally do that, but I feel like Vati does a good enough job. That's his thing, and it's, you know, it's pretty much all that needs to be discussed. So that being said, if you're curious about the lore at all of Dark Souls 3 or Dark Souls the universe as a whole, definitely watch his videos. Epic Name Bro also used to make really good lore videos. I just don't know if he's still in the lore video game anymore. but he was definitely up there before. Now, as you guys saw, we walk across this bridge and whatever, and that's cool and all that, but those buildings and everything in the distance don't look anything like the Painted World. But we can assume by the little bridge there that it might be. It just might be. Who knows, though? I don't know. This is all speculation. This is all everything everyone's kind of talked about so far with this DLC. It's completely hit or miss, but this is everything we can put together or know so far. And you never really know with From Software, right? Like, you never really know. Now, in this DLC, we're talking about the ashes of Ariandel, which looks oddly similar to Ariamis, so maybe we watch the fall or the result of the fall of Ariandel because it's the ashes of Ariandel, and it then transits or turns into Ariamis. Maybe. Both have very similar names and could be quite the possibility. So you got these nasty ass bug creature things. You got this dude with a big ass axe and he's slashing, doing stuff, casting earthquakes and stuff, blasting you. Did you guys see that? Hold on, I'm gonna rewind that a little bit. Did you guys see this sword? Okay, so they also posted an image of that as well. And that sword right there has the hilt that looks similar to the Morian blade, which is probably something to note as well. So maybe it's like an extended Morian blade or a new type of Morian blade because a lot of people want dark magic scaling weapons. And it looks super badass. It looks fucking awesome. And then after that, we see this like magic boomerang, this physical damage boomerang. Maybe it's not physical damage, I don't know, but I'm gonna assume because we're talking about the Angelic Faith of Lothric that it is going to be a physical damage dealing boomerang type spell, which looks really cool. It's like this like floating angelic light disc. It'll most definitely look good on my cleric, that's for sure. And there's wolves, that dude's slashing them, and there's flame torching, fire breathing, new frost breath, which is really cool. Okay, so hold on, that frost breath will be really cool as well because that'll be like the equivalent to flame surge except for sorcerers. And that fire breathing is cool because they made purpose with the torch, or it's a new type of torch, I don't really know. Okay, so now we're back to this dude in the hood and he's like got his beard out and he passes you this like tainted nasty old raggedy bloody cloth, and I'm going to assume that it is a piece of the Painted World's painting. I don't know, I could be wrong. And then this is where the trailer gets tricky because you got the Lord Vessel filling up with blood or whatever from the bottom up, and then it shows all the bosses all over again. So maybe you do like a boss trial where you fight all bosses, or you play through the game and fight these bosses again, or you fight them in an alternate dimension or a different timeline. So that's kind of my speculation on that. And then you've got this weird crow looking creature, which I will point out that there is a lot of crow creatures in the Painted World that we've seen before, or maybe this is like a new type of Nito or something like that, but I'm gonna go more so with my crow creature theory because of the black feathers and everything. And then you see this image of like burning buildings falling and like just being destroyed, so I'm gonna assume that's like the fall of like the Angelic Faith of Lothric. Now this boss here, tossing around the Lord Vessel, a lot of people say that this DLC will probably have a connection to Guinevere of some sort because she has to do with the Angelic Faith of Lothric, and we can all assume that the Queen of Lothric is Guinevere from the first games. So some people speculate that this just might be Guinevere, and she's raining down a flaming Lord Vessel at you like crazy, okay? Now, a couple other things to point out is they posted these concept pieces of artwork and everything. So we've got this big ass blade as we've seen before. We've got like that new miracle or whatever that's being tossed around. We've got the new frosty world, which I'm going to assume is the Painted World, but we can't be certain on that one. Then you got this fucking weird whatever bug thing, and then you got an image of the bridge and the buildings off in the distance, and that once again I think is going to be the Painted World. And I think the last screenshot that we saw is going to be like the other side of the bridge that you have to walk across in order to get to the Painted World, because you guys may or may not remember, but in the first game that bridge was actually broken from the back half, so you could only enter the Painted World through the painting and then come off the bridge and go upwards into the Painted World. So maybe we get to kind of see what's behind us on that bridge if this actually is the Painted World. Or there is some potential that the Painted World is actually behind us and we are going forward to a new area that was cut off by the Painted World originally. Now this image here is 4 people fighting. At first I was like thinking that they were all pals or whatever. And you can see my sorcerer in the far left over there. But I'm going to say this is a new PvP arena. And actually someone on Reddit posted that it reminded them of the original PvP arena Dark Souls 1 screenshot that FromSoft released like a while ago back in Dark Souls 1 days for an arena type area. And so yeah, that might be an actual PvP arena, and that'd be cool. That would be awesome, or like a new PvP arena, whatever it is. As long as it has to do with PvP, I'm stoked. And of course our next image, we got that frost breath going on, so that's pretty awesome as well. Now another thing I'm actually going to mention about this guy, because they have another screenshot of him and he's holding this shitty ass rag. So maybe or maybe not, we can assume that he's holding a chunk of the Painted World painting. But that's like, once again, a long shot. That's a long shot, dude. But take note of what his head looks like. It's like a pointed helmet, which we've seen out of both Holy Knight Hodrick, which could be Holy Knight Hodrick before he's crazy, and the Legion, of course. Although this armor set looks nothing like Holy Knight Hodrick's armor, it could still potentially be him before he maybe tried to join the Legion, or made his attempts to join the Legion and went crazy and all that stuff, and then he became part of the Mountain Makers and so on and so forth. Now this one here is that big boss creature with the Lord Vessel, and they're like sipping out of the Lord Vessel. Now, once again, I'm going to assume that this actually might be Guinevere, and it's because Osiris, if he is the king, and he was experimenting on himself with dragon stuff and whatnot, and then became the Osiris that we fight and know today, then we can assume that maybe he did the same thing to Guinevere, and that might be why she has like these feathers and is like this big ass dragon beast, is because Osiris is somewhat crazed off the concept of Seth the Scaleless, and then in turn experiments both on himself, his wife, and Ocelot, who is the invisible baby that you can assume he's holding in the boss fight. And according to the lore, the Lothric bloodline always tried to achieve the most optimal bloodline in the Lothric kingdom in order to continue to serve the kingdom, which is why Prince Lothric and Lorien are like mutated or like kind of fucked up, because they're like almost failed experiments, but not really. And Lothric, actually, now that I think about it, is like long ass, gangly ass dude. Like Prince Lothric's got like the long arms, bruh, and like he shoots out angelic stuff. He's following the Angelic Faith, but then he went rogue and decided not to link the fires, and that's why the whole world's just like shitting the bed. Prince Lothric had a temper tantrum and was like, you know what? No. No! And it's to be assumed that's due to the sorcerers, such as Pontiff Sullivan, that might have convinced him not to link the fires. But anyways, that's like a whole different, that's like another different realm of lore, but kinda not really, but you know, I'm not gonna get into it. And then I showed this image off earlier. It is the painter, and only whom I could assume is gonna be Rosaria. And that's a long shot once again. Don't quote me on that. Don't quote me on any of this actually, but that might be Rosaria. I'm just saying. And if that is Rosaria, and she is the painter of the Painted World of Ariamis, that is fucking awesome. And then there's this last one, which we've seen these creatures before in Dark Souls 1 and Dark Souls 2. Of course, differently in Dark Souls 2, but mostly in Dark Souls 1. And they're the crow people. They're those like weird bird people that are just like out to destroy you and shit in Dark Souls 1 and the Painted World of Ariamis, which only further satisfies my wanting to believe that this has to do with the Painted World of Ariamis, and that it might have been once Ariandel before. And this dude, oh man, I don't even know who this dude is going to be in Dark Souls 3, considering you had a friendly one of these guys. But in Dark Souls 2, there was like a nice one that talked to you and like made boss weapons out of your boss souls for you and stuff like that. And then in Dark Souls 1, all they want to do is just like fuck your shit up and just destroy you. So who knows what this character is going to be, or if they're going to be a creature that we have to fight or something like that. But I have a feeling that we're going to come back to Lothric from maybe the Painted World and talk about stuff to this dude, or maybe just fight him. Maybe he's a boss. I don't know. I really don't know. But once again, it's the idea and concept that this dude exists in the Dark Souls 3 DLC potentially, that we could assume we're going to see the Painted World or Ariandel, whichever we'd like to assume or believe is true. Now, Reddit user A Certain Anime Baby went to Passion Republic's entire artwork portfolio online and found this image as well, which is Queen Juniper. Now, Passion Republic did all the concept art for Dark Souls 3, and they have a lot of Dark Souls concept art on their actual profile. So people, for finding this, which was Queen Juniper, and considered maybe that this is Guinevere. And she just might be, because it looks very similar to that final image that we see of that creature thing drinking out of the Lord Vessel. But we could be totally wrong once again on that one. So maybe Queen Juniper is Guinevere, as for concept art goes, and maybe that demon child, or whatever that might be, might have been an original concept for Guinevere, just to kind of give you guys some more information to go off, of course. So that is all the information I think I could personally come up with, and that I've kind of read through and everything. And I think those are some fantastic comments. I think some certains we can definitely gather from this in the trailer is that we're gonna get new spells, which is awesome. We're gonna get a bunch of new weapons. We might see an alternate timeline, or might see a different decision made within the game itself. And we'll most definitely have to be dealing with the Angelic Faith of Lothric. I just know it. Like, when you consider the meaning behind the DLC and you watch that trailer, you have to assume that we are more than likely dealing with the Angelic Faith of Lothric. And of course, talking about its downfall, because it is the ashes of Ariandel. So that's everything I have to talk about today, guys. As I always say, drop a like for your boy, Goblins. And once again, a lot of this is just speculation and concepts that I've come up with, so please don't get too mad. It's just everything I could kind of muster up from this trailer. But I'll be back here with more Dark Souls content or Pokemon Go content shortly, so take it easy, guys, and have a general good, and I'll talk to you all later. Peace out!